Superbrawl team. Let's waste no more time though and get out on to the convergence. I don't even think anybody calls it that, but it's nice it's got a name.
Well, I love to call it that. I'm a big fan. I like being able to say the Rift or the Abyss. The Convergence maybe doesn't have quite the same sort of tripping off your tongue feel to it, but even so, that's where we're headed. We're going to get to follow Lobby A, which is a lobby composing of Frozak, brubbba, Slicks, fiskskagg, Temlozz, Laser, Octopus, our top player from yesterday, Tiaan, and of course staig, rovskagg as well.
Yeah, Tiaan did make the bold claim that they are the best Northern Europeans, so we'll see if they can back that up. That's certainly quite the crown to take here. Again, we'll find our 3 best Northern Europeans by the time we're done. But yeah, let's get into it and start looking at some of the comps we're going to be seeing coming together here. You mentioned, of course, we saw a ton of Xiaoyu yesterday, we saw a ton of Jade, a ton of Corki, all the things we might expect, but there were a couple of comps which were a little bit surprising, sneaky through. We saw, I think we saw one player, fiskskagg, who is in this game, actually managed to pull off a successful Aurelian Soul comp, and there was even some built different knocking around as well.
I'm so glad you said that before I came out with my next sentence, because I was about to say that I feel like we saw every single dragon played apart from the A-Soul, but obviously you've remembered one game that I had let slip from my memory. So actually getting the opportunity to see all of the dragons played to varying amounts of success. In my mind, there's no doubt that Siphon, Xiaoyu, and Deja are the 3 most highly prioritized. However, we've seen a little bit of everyone else, and actually I especially want to give a bit of a shout out to our Shin, who's been played quite successfully in a few major compositions, especially when that mage spatula is picked up.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's an absolute menace to the late game. So Frozak, they've managed to grab some very early Cavaliers. We saw an absolute ton of that yesterday, of course, with the Mirage. Let's go. Well, we'll check in a sec what it's going to be. That's where we're having ourselves a silver first augment. So Mirage will be duelist dexterity for this game.
Okay, so that's going to be a pretty nice one to get your hands on, especially when you're getting that Yone, Yasuo, and Deja stacking up. However, I just want to say one more thing, and that's the thing I was most interested by spotting happening 3 or 4 times yesterday, and that was fairly late game pivots to Shyvanas and how powerful that could be, just wrecking lobbies straight out with those last second flips. No one seemed to build directly towards it or want to go for 9 Rage Wing, but when the opportunity presented itself later on to swap out the dragon, quite often a Deja, and then just drop those items onto the Shyvana, it worked almost every time we watched it.
All right, well, Laser Octopus is going to make sure that we probably don't watch some in the early game by picking up the AFK augment. A huge amount of money, but it also will come with a huge amount of ass-kicking as well, because they're going to be able to really not change too much about their board at all. Nidalee will be coming in as the sort of unit on their bench that's most on the left when they tick over to 4. But Frozak, we can see here, they started with a good selection of Cavaliers, and they're doubling down on it by making Lilia their carry.
So, just quickly on AFK, the way I've always looked at that comp and that augment, and tell me if you see it differently, Peter, is pros, huge chunk of gold, almost definitely going to get first pick on carousel. Cons, you're guaranteed that loss streak and that losing horrible amounts of health in the early game.
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. It's one of those ones that kind of sometimes makes you wish that you pre-leveled to be able to be at least, for the duration so your losses aren't so bad, but yeah, I mean, in terms of you're getting a windful amount of gold out of a silver augment, it's pretty amazing. And, I think it's going to set up Laser Octopus really well. Missing out on the strength of a silver augment as far as, in terms of actual late game board strength, just isn't going to matter. So I think Laser is on the right path from the beginning, but we need to go around and check out what some of the other players are doing. And I think brubbba is an excellent choice, as they'll also be going for the Lilia very early on.
They, however, have got the Pandora's augment. I've often spoken about how it's pretty much my favorite augment in the game, just for the sort of the fun of it, that roulette, spin the wheel, see what you get, almost always end up, after 3 or 4 rounds of exactly the items that you are hoping for at that point of the game. And with plenty of components to be seen, you imagine that right now, brubbba's in a pretty happy place.
All right, so brubbba looking good, though they haven't actually leveled up as well, which is kind of surprising for them to be having a 2-star Lilia. That's a pretty decent high roll. Fisker, or Fisk's up at the top, we'll get the name right eventually. I believe our lowest seed, one of the lowest seeds at least coming out of yesterday. This was the player who managed to get Aurelian Soul working, but unfortunately they had another game which was more off the tracks, which was Deja Revel, which is usually pretty good, but I think sometimes the players can struggle when it comes to these really rare setups because they just don't get the chance to practice them.
Okay, and we're getting ourselves towards a little bit of reveling going on over here already with the singular. I don't know. It's just becoming old because I was about to call out the TK, but we've also added a Jinx into the comp as well. So Revel's going to be there along with the Cannoneer, already getting Trainer out as well. So getting Nomsy stacking up towards Plat as quickly as possible. This is a pretty nice start for Fisk, and I expect them to pick up the win very, very comfortably against an exceptionally AFK Octopus.
Yes, the Octopus is going to be doing their reps running around the place, but Fisk going for the early leveling with the trainers makes a lot of sense. You can be able to get your 2-star Tristana in early, hopefully get yourself a really strong Nomsy, maybe even find Trainer 3. We certainly saw Trainer 3 having a pretty big impact yesterday. You'd be able to tear through comps that don't position well against it.
Some useful pickups to be had here. Someone can get their hands on the early Lulu to get towards that trainer. Some item components which will be put to good use, I'm sure, by others. Turning attention away from the carousel, though, for a minute and back to yesterday's games. All of these players, of course, have had to fight really, really hard to get here, Peter. However, when we look at the actual consistency, of course, Laser Octopus was fantastic, but they did have a 7th place. There was just the one player, and I'm just trying to put my finger on exactly who it was, and it was Tiaan, who currently lies in 2nd, the only player who finished in the top 5 every single game. With that being said, they did only have one first to their name, though.
Yes, and that's what, is our focus for today. Our players need to be hitting, ultimately, the top 3 is where they want to end up in overall. So while we've had some players who have had very good consistent performance, even for players like Tiaan, not falling down the standings, of course, is very important, but at the same time, you've got to be able to push through and find your really big high roll games, because otherwise, it's not going to matter.
I think we're going to see our top 3 probably having to have multiple bursts realistically across the 6 games today. And it's not like the other day where you can afford to be middle of the road, where just getting good 4ths and even 5ths is okay to secure yourself a top half finish. That's just not going to cut it today. You've got to be not just inside the top quarter, but even less than that if you want to be seeing your way through to the Superbrawl. Right now, an interesting fight going on between Tiaan and fiskskagg, who had both been up at the top of the table. Do you feel like with the itemization and the 2-star Ezreal here is going to be a pretty comfortable win for Tiaan, who takes away the undefeated streak of fiskskagg?
That's the only undefeated streak left in the game. So we see already that our players are getting pretty aggro. Tiaan with a lot of reach rings early on, and the bruisers, sadly their items don't really support going for any shenanigans with set, which is always a little sad to see, but what they have got right now is good enough to get them set up with hopefully a 3-round win streak coming into Crux.
See, in Twitch chat, got a couple of people who not only competing today, but also were competing the other day, but unfortunately didn't make it through. Do give us a shout out in Twitch chat. Let us know who you're going to be cheering on today, who you'd like to see make it if you yourself are not able to. And of course, even if you didn't play in the other day, do let us know who you are cheering on. Always love to see that out in the chat.
Yeah, I saw Barry Bad and Miss Bullies in there with 26 and 25 points respectively. The cutoff was 27, so it was a real shame not to see them manage to make it through, but the competition has been incredibly fierce, as Laser Octopus can attest to. We talked about them getting a butt kicking in stage 2, and they've suddenly done that down to 62 already. They're going to have to make good use of their big pile of money.
Got that big pile of money now. They're up to full econ. They've got plenty to spend. They can level themselves up a little bit more as well, but losing 40 HP this early on gotta hurt.
I was wondering if we might see, whether we'd see Laser Octopus trying to spend out a little bit earlier just to try and arrest some of that bleeding, because, as I said, it's been a huge amount of HP lost. Trading away, it's almost like a cruel pact, which we've been set up here. Just in terms of you're trading away so much health for gold, that gold better pay off huge.
I'm sure that Laser Octopus would have wished it was a cruel pack, because that's one of the strongest augments in the game, according to the win rates at the moment, Peter. Trading your health for XP. Turns out that works pretty well at certain times. But what we're seeing is Laser Octopus playing this really calmly, as you'd expect from someone who did so well the other day. Yes, you could invest a load of that gold into trying to stabilize your mid game, but if the entire point of your augment was that you get yourself up to top econ, why would you then want to just immediately burn that just to go back down again? You might as well have kept the health in the first place.
It's certainly high risk, high reward, and that's what today is all about. Let's take a look at some of the players we haven't checked in with as of yet. A staig. They've got themselves the early trainer 3. We're talking about that, how quickly that helps get the Nomsy really up and punching above her weight. Good frontline of Guardians here, up against, let's see, so this is going to be, I believe, Tiaan from before. Yes. Sneaking in there with a bunch of 2 stars. I think this is going to be pretty close, but that Shen is holding down the front line incredibly well.
I don't think that Stag can win this one, to be perfectly honest, and being proved right rather quickly here as they get absolutely wrecked. They still have the bronze Nomsy. They didn't really have any front line to stop that set, just ramming through their defenses with the Dragonmance.
Yes, I think I really overestimated how good the Nomsy was going to be at this point in the game. Of course, those changes to make her a lot weaker in the early going. We've now got the choice of augments. We've gone from silver to gold, and we do get to see, you know, we'll take a quick whip around and see what augments people are picking up here to see how aggressive they'll be. Thrill the Hunt, Celestial Blessing certainly would help getting Nomsy off to the races by, you know, getting the extra healing in and maybe a second shot through. Preparation, the most passive choice, but given where we've got, you know, our players right now, I'm not sure passivity will be an option.
I will we'll keep our eyes peeled for what gets picked up, and there it is.
All right, Celestial Blessing it will be. I think that makes a lot of sense when you've got a huge firing line with high damage characters. But let's go around and see what everyone else has gone for. Component grab bag here for Frozak makes a lot of sense. They've got themselves the early Cavalier setup, I believe. Yes, this is the one we saw from before. And they'll be able to push Nunu up to be a much, much stronger early game carry to go with that Lilia.
And also getting the Cavalier Scale Scorn going as well and getting double itemization on the Lilia. No, it's only just a 1-star. Probably going to help them a little bit. Unfortunately, they're coming up against tough competition in this early Deja with the Archangels. I always get mixed up between whether it's an Archangels or a Seraphs at this point. But regardless of which it is, it has damage. It's going to have damage for the rest of the game. It's going to start to get attack speed items. And it's not necessarily even going to need them because we're looking at Duelist. And that is why Deja is so strong right now.
All right, we've got a player who's hiding. Can we spot the name somewhere? No, they're hiding under here, so we'll have to keep looking around.
It's got to be Tiaan, hasn't it? Based on the little legend and the health bar.
You are correct, sir. Well intuited.
Hey, I actually got something right for a change after a couple of faux pas the other day. I'd love to just briefly before we move back on to some of the compositions that we're looking at here, pick your brain on a thought of a conversation I had earlier on with a player in a TFT game, and that was talking about the which augments you get and when, because obviously they can be so impactful. If all of a sudden, you know, it's stage 1 or stage 2, you suddenly get yourself prismatic. They were basically saying it would be nice if you knew that you were getting a silver augment stage 1, a gold augment stage 2, and a prismatic stage 3. Now, I personally don't agree, and I have a reason for that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that idea.
I think it's one of those things where it's always, I think, going to be easier to argue for a sort of status quo in that kind of respect, but I can see the argument for it. I think for TFT, you know, it's been a game which has basically reinvented itself repeatedly. So I wouldn't mind seeing a kind of return back to kind of like sort of a lab approach like we saw with Galaxies, where they try out ideas like that to see if it makes the game, you know, more interesting or less interesting to know that. I think I would be in favor of experimenting with the idea. I have no idea if it would be better or worse. It would certainly be pretty different.
Different, definitely, but I think you used the exact word which I used earlier on when I was having this discussion, which is interesting, and I think it would definitely make it less interesting. One of the fun things is that you can suddenly at the early levels go prismatic. This changes the entire game for you, it changes the entire way which you're going to be setting out and playing and what's going on around you. So I like the randomity of it. I would be fine with knowing that one of the augments is going to be of each, so you can have like 1 prismatic, 1 gold, and 1 silver. But I don't think I would want to know the order they were coming in.
Yeah, I think there could be definitely a lot of experimentation with that idea. Let us know in the chat what you guys think as well, because obviously we have the course correction ability on TFT's future in this very tournament, so make sure you deal with that responsibly, chat. We don't want to end up with, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something really bad, but phantoms for everyone.
I was just laughing looking at Twitch chat and realising that it had briefly been emote-only mode, which is why people haven't been able to get it they would have liked to. They're all like trying to let us know. They're like, come on, the world's on fire! But it looks like we've been able to sort that one somehow. And meanwhile, we've seen more dragons come into the ball. This is going to be an Idus being picked up for Laser Octopus, who's still trying to stem the bleeding. Last time we checked in on them, they were on 62 HP. They've only dropped 4 since then, so things definitely looking up for them in the mid game. They've got themselves Dragon Alliance, so they're rocking the Deja as well, and it's doing pretty decent work with the Shimmer Scale item on it as well.
I mean, we're now gone into a world where we're back almost to Mutant Synaptic Web territory, that we've got 3 different Deja players in lobby just because it's a duelist dexterity, along with Spellblade, effectively just replacing one of the items you would need for the Deja to get online a ton faster. Of course, that does mean 2-star Deja is going to be a lot harder for all of our players. I think one we haven't spent a lot of time with is Temlozz. Okay, well, we've got trainers and we've got mirages. Which one do you like the best?
Well, I just before I looked at the trainers, I was just looking at Temlozz, who briefly replaced themselves with a training dummy, but they've gone back to being what I think is called the Hex Gold Umbra, which used to be one of my absolute favorite little legends. And I just wanted to give it a little bit of love.
No, I have to admit, I've never gotten very good at remembering the name of the little legends, but this one is pretty neat. I think if you're trying to attract an Idis to your board, it's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, that certainly could work, but all that glitters is not gold, and right now things not looking particularly golden for Temlozz as they try to whittle through the opposition. But with one big blast from the center, who'd stacked up that Rage Blade, Temlozz is able to secure victory here.
Yeah, so we've got Temlozz and Staig and fiskskagg all on the trainers. We've got Laser, Tiaan, and Slicks on the Deja. I'm trying to think of what that even leaves us here. I think Frozak will presumably eventually be looking to go into World Conjuring check with them. No, they've actually went away from the Cavalier, so they're the only player we've seen so far who's broken from this Mirage trainer lineup, which has otherwise completely dominated everything.
I really like that from Frozak. Seeing something as uncontested and powerful as this, which essentially can play Dragon Killer, yeah, absolutely. Why not go for that? And let's see if they get rewarded through the items coming out. They sure do.
So a second Xiaoyu. Wait, no, sorry, that's a third one. My apologies. Yeah. But straight up to 2-star. It's always wonderful to see a player, make a direct decision like this, saying, I'm not going to contest everybody else, and get directly rewarded for it quite as starkly as this.
Yeah, this is exactly what the doctor ordered, and all of a sudden Frozak is, I expect, to start climbing up the table quite dramatically. Seeing a couple of people on Twitch chat asking about the scores. We will try and pop a document to give you an idea of the standings and what's going on. Unfortunately, we don't have a scores command set up for today just yet.
Yes, I think you can, if you do bracket, I believe that will get you, will get you to the main page. So I'll just... Honestly, I'll just direct people that way. I think it does take a couple extra steps to find it, but it's just quite a lot faster than it would be otherwise. Staig mentioned we've got ourselves a pretty good shimmer scale going for this one. The one which will be the extra pile of AP being used by Sona this time around, but of course competing with a 2-star Xiaoyu at this stage is extremely difficult.
It is, and you can just see it bopping everybody on the head pretty comfortably. Heimer's not going to be able to get another ult out, not going to be able to stun up the Jade Giant, and that is going to be another win coming in. Frozak, who continues to climb up that table. The same cannot be said for Laser Octopus, losing 40 health in the early game, a further 30 health taken away from them, and yesterday's dominant force is in danger of an early exit.
Oh boy. We'll keep a close eye on what Laser Octopus is up to, as they have successfully lured the Idis in. Apparently Twitch chat is on slow mode, so Barry can't spam the chat. What a terrible loss we have. For Laser Octopus, though, what we do have is a Dragon Alliance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we saw this earlier on, but it's now had the Shyvana added to it as well, and that's fully itemized with the Resolve, the Spark, and the Justice as well. So that's going to be an interesting combination coming through. Not too much itemization onto the Deja just yet, apart from that Shimmer Scale, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Duelist is certainly going to help get that Gold Monster stuff proccing in.
The option. Just saying they've got the option for Xiaoyu if they want it as well now.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll see if they end up going that far, because certainly there's a few extra traits that they might want to try and fit in to enable the other 3 dragons. We've got a Deja barely alive on the backside, but Shyvana is doing work.
It is, but it's going to have to deal with this Cavalier Olaf that's already shredded through 2 dragons, and it wants to add a third to the mantelpiece. No further lightning bursts from the skies. There'll be no Ragnarok and roll. And that is going to be Laser Octopus getting on a little bit of a roll, finally picking up a win and halting that losing streak.
They need to do that. They're down there with Slicks, who's also in a fair amount of trouble. Let's see if Slicks have a board comparably powerful. Somewhere in the middle, we've sort of married Mirage and Jade together.
Big moment.
We've found the 2-star Deja, which is, as you say, going to be a big turning point for Slicks.
Slicks needed this desperately. Surely they're going to click the button before the next round. Oh, just in time.
They're trying to play to the crowd. But Deja is going to be directly in the path of the Sonar Stun, which will stop that duelist dexterity from stacking up quite as quickly as they'd like.
Checking one little thing out while we follow this game. And no, I have not successfully been able to do that. I am good. I am very, very good at using spreadsheets, it turns out.
Hooray! Spreadsheets are the best. We're keeping track of everything that's going on. Again, for anyone who wasn't here yesterday, we are kind of, this is a relatively skeleton operation we've got going on today, which just, I'm running production, we're doing the casting and the notes and things, so apologies if there's any technical issues, do let us know, because, we'll have to correct things between the two of us. So if there's anything with volumes, anything with stuff on screen not being what it should be, like yesterday where I kept forgetting to change the game number, and you fine folks in the Twitch chat help remind me repeatedly until I eventually got it.
It is the little things sometimes. We see a spatula left right till the end. Temlozz snatching this one up gratefully. Tiaan frustrated not to have been able to get there in time. We'll see what Temlozz has been able to make use of this one. Of course, we've already gone past the third of our augments at this point, so it's not like going to be gaining any kind of earth drop here, but is that just a few little item components, the potential for a reforge as well. We'll see how things work out for Temlozz.
That is honestly fascinating that Temlozz was able to get that one, because we're in a lobby where we've already seen Mirage is hugely valued, and for none of the Mirage players to grab that for themselves, where they could just make it into Mirage Spatula and push towards the higher levels of Mirage. It's fascinating. I have no idea what Temlozz is planning to do with it, but brubbba, we haven't checked in with for a while. They've got themselves a whole herd of horses, but these horses scorn the scales.
Yeah, they got themselves all those Cavaliers. They might as well have Cavalier Unity at this point, because they've basically got Cavalier on everyone. It's Diana who's doing work in the backline. The Sunfire Cape burning away along with those orbs flying around the Moon Lady. That is yet more damage coming out of the Olaf that we saw shredding dragons apart earlier on. Will have no problem taking down the Catfish. Temlozz will lose that win streak and will be dragged closer to the rest of the pack.
This is honestly fascinating. It's, Temlozz finds themselves the early Aurelian Soul. Did see, I think I've got to point out in the chat that we have seen a few Aurelian Souls floating through the shops as the 2-star Siphon comes in. Pretty big pickup. Still waiting, I guess, for the 2-star Corky, or maybe just the 1, to get that one off to the races.
I'm just going to say that one of the things that we're looking at here is, as we get towards Dragon, I want to see exactly what options are presented for Temlozz and exactly what they want to do with this spatula. They clearly don't want to mash it together with the recurve. That's no value to them. Let's have a little look what they're going to prioritize as we come towards Dragon, so they can make themselves an emblem of choice.
Notable that this is, we've got a big bruiser frontline for Temlozz here, but we don't have Trainer 3 to allow Nomsy to do damage, and we haven't got a hugely itemized Cannoneer backline either. So it's relying a lot on getting the Siphon to do the lion's share of the work, and at least in this case, it's coming down to a dragon fight, so a loss either way shouldn't be too damaging.
Well, with the Siphon versus Siphon action, only one can stand tall, and with one being a 2-star, it just hits that little bit harder. The punch from Temlozz comes through and delivers a cruel blow to the opposition. Now we get to see that dragon and exactly what's going to get picked up. I'm kind of expecting a mage here.
That would make a lot of sense. We definitely could make that. We could always swap out an Alawi on the front line for a Silas and get the same job done. There's a ton of dragons coming for Temlozz as they roll their gold away. I think they are looking for that 2-star Corky, ideally. They've got themselves a decent setup, and yeah, they're not going to be getting any more components, so whatever they're planning to do with this spatula, they've got to do it with this setup.
With the Silas coming in, I think my thoughts have probably been confirmed at this point to see exactly where that emblem goes. This has been a significantly well, a significant roll down coming out of Temlozz. They've been able to get pretty much everything they would have wanted. They've gone into the Mage Corky, which isn't my favorite of the mages, but you're going to get that extra big one rocket coming out and adding the static to it as well. As soon as they get up to 2-star, that's going to be providing consistent backline damage. The Siphon already fully itemized at the front, and now Thieves Gloves onto the silence as well. Temlozz setting themselves up in a really good position to get, I'd say, comfortably top 2 in this lobby.
Yeah, I like what we're seeing, and right now, up at the top of the table, so nothing too much to complain about there. As much as their board could be getting stronger, later Octopus is still trying to hold on with their Dragon Alliance. They've got themselves a 2-star Bard to help push Staige's casting speed just up a little bit faster. That's Shyvana doing an absolute ton of work. Unfortunately, Deja falling on the backline means a lot of Laser Octopus's damage is gone.
Yeah, this was pretty much perfect positioning coming out of the Siphon to rinse through Laser Octopus's remaining health bar. They're going to get dropped down probably to single-digit health on the back of this one. They've really paid the price for that AFK start.
Oh boy. Well, it's not high risk, high reward for no reason. We have got a decent amount of gold, and it's going to be spent immediately by Laser Octopus. I think the second they take the L, they know they're now just one big loss, or even one regular loss, from getting knocked out here in 8th, which of course would be an appalling way to start the day and would almost eliminate their chances of making it through as one of our Superbrawl representatives immediately.
They absolutely don't get what they wanted through the rerolls as well. So this now comes down to the lottery of who they're going to be facing next. A little bit of repositioning. Maybe this is going to be enough to help Dual Gauntlet onto the Deja. It's going to go up against opposition Deja. This is going to be a Mirage Cavalier going up against our Dragon Alliance. This could be a really, really tight fight, and we've got to keep our eyes peeled as we watch Laser Octopus firing away. I'm not sure that it's got the damage to deal with the Morellos coming out on the other side, but with the Siphon lasting as long, so the Idus lasting as long as it did, it buys a little bit of time. It's not going to buy enough, though. This is going to be Laser Octopus.
That is going to be a heartbreaker. Laser was saying in the chat beforehand they had a headache coming in today, so they weren't feeling like they were going to be on top of their game. But that is, to go from first place finisher before to last in the first game, we've still got 16 players overall. The chances of coming back now and taking one of our top 3 spots, it's almost impossible. I wouldn't say completely, but it's, a lot of stars will have to align for Laser Octopus, but opportunity knocks for everybody else in the competition to run up the table instead.
I don't disagree with you, but I kind of just want to point out the caveat, which is that Laser Octopus did pick up 7th place the other day, and all of their other games were top 3 finishes. If I remember correctly, having looked at the spreadsheet earlier on, that shows that actually you can have one bad result and still finish top of the table, never mind top 3. So if they are able to completely pivot and turn and have this be their one bad game of the day, we can't count them out completely, but I'm not going to disagree with you that things certainly have started badly, and it's definitely massively decreased their chances of pulling through.
Oh yeah, I mean, I absolutely want to see Laser Octopus come back from this one. I'm just setting my expectations relatively low. For brubbba, they are in a pretty okay spot, but of course, Frozak, who we saw from before, they made the decision to go into Jade. In this particular instance, it doesn't work out for them because the Cavalier 5 scale skull setup, one which I didn't think we saw at all in day 1, is working remarkably well, and more credit to brubbba for going for it.
A lot of fun watching this Cavalier Olaf, and it's just going through the opposition alongside the Diana as well. Just a little change on what we see from Assassin Olaf, but still doing a lot of the same work, the same damage, and things working out pretty nicely for brubbba as they claw their way back towards the top half of the table, currently lying in 5th place. This is an important carousel for some of these players near the bottom because rovskagg is now dropped down to single-digit health. Frozak's down below 20. These players also in danger of starting the day poorly. One of the people I actually thought we were going to see near the top of the table was going to be Frozak, going for this nearly uncontested Jade composition, but it just hasn't worked out that way.
No, we've somehow ended up with a Mirage emblem in here as well, which isn't absolutely perfect. The early spike I think worked really well, but I think with the 3 Archangels in there, Frozak really needs these rounds to go long, and I think that's not going to happen if you've got things like the Scale Skull Cavaliers who thrive on just getting kills and roaring over and over again. Up against Staig here, though, Frozak could at least push themselves one place up if they can win this round.
They're going to give it a good go, trying to get the damage out already. Xiaoyu starting to fire, getting closer and closer to the resolve being completed. They're taking a lot of hits, however, from this Corki that's stacking the Rage Blade up mighty fast, but they're going mostly untouched. The Edge of Night still to kick in. They're going to have to use it, though, as Corki starts to turn their attention, as the Bard is now next focus. Tristana as well, buying more and more time for Corki to change focus, but they're not able to remove the Xiaoyu, and instead it's rovskagg who is removed.
Amazing news for everybody else. Again, every single place matters here today. So let's keep checking around. Let's see what brubbba is up to, because it looks like they're rolling down right now, and perhaps they've got it in mind. They can hit themselves some Diana and Olaf 3 action. Right now, we're relatively close. Two stars for both of their main units, but not close enough to commit in the last remnants of their gold.
Okay, going to see these Cavaliers in action yet again. Slicks, who we've not seen a huge amount of in this game, now win streaking, trying to push themselves closer to the top of the table in game 1 of the day. brubbba actually going to go up against Temlozz, so this is going to be a battle between second last and first at the moment. See how this one pans out. Temlozz now joined first, courtesy of what I can only assume was a star call coming out of a Soraka on a different screen. Over on the back line, so far Zoe going relatively untouched, but gets caught out by the Cord of the Forge God, which gets a multi-man knock-up as well. Yet again, Olaf doing the work. brubbba picks up the win against Temlozz.
Let's check in with Tiaan, who is on that win streak, doing very well for themselves with a one-punch Deja. This is looking pretty terrifying with the Yasuo being picked up early on. Frozak, though, is our most immediate concern, down on 6 HP. They got up to Jade 9. It felt like they had everything in place here to have a really, really good game. The decision-making was on point, but it just hasn't happened for them.
Really hasn't, and this is one of 2 players who we're seeing running a triple Archangels composition. We saw the other one, I believe, on a Deja. And the problem, as you were citing earlier on, is that these rounds just aren't going long enough. There's so much early damage coming out that these champions aren't managing to get those stacks. They're not managing to get the damage down as much as maybe they'd want to. And it feels like maybe the path choice here for the EMEA wasn't quite as on point as maybe as it could have been. Also, not the optimal drop coming out of this Shroud either, which isn't going to help things out in comparison to the Rage Blade we saw picked up for a rival Yasuo.
Checking in with brubbba as the Diana has hit 3-star. Olaf has not gotten there so far, so brubbba certainly a menace in the lobby. Tiaan finding the Aoshin 2 as well. But, oh no! It's going to be, of course, this is the Dragon Horde setup for Tiaan, and with Aoshin 2 coming in, this surely is going to be the end of the line for Frozak.
Hey there, but Frozak is fighting hard. Xiaoyu staying alive at the minute, has got that ability to take down rival dragons, but has got to take down a hell of a lot of them. Edge of Night picks up for just a moment, but with Deja ripping through the backline, Frozak is no more.
Frozak going to be cursing their luck in this game, as I say. Just, it seems like it just was not the environment for them to thrive. You check in with some exiles and Cannoneers here for Temlozz. We've got the Mage Sona being the backline, along with a Thieves Gloves Corki 2-star. I kind of like what we're seeing here. I mentioned we haven't taken a ton of time with Slick, so let's pop back in with them and see what they're up to. Of course, it's Deja everywhere, but with a 2-star Yasuo to back them up as well.
That's what they're up to, but what they're down to is 7 health, same as Temlozz. We could easily see 2 people dropping out here, and a single digit of health could be the difference between picking up 4 points and 5 points, and the difference between maybe later on in the day coming 3rd or 4th in the standings. So really, really crucial fight for both of these players. They're actually up against each other, trying to see who will be the last one standing. It's going to come down to Corki trying to take down a Deja. Surely won't be successful in that venture. Temlozz drops out in 5th. Slicks lives to see another day. brubbba continues their win streak, as does Tiaan. Fisk now may be the one in danger.
Oh boy. So we've got Tiaan and we've got brubbba both on a win streak. Of course, brubbba, talked about repeatedly before, is still trying to find that last. Olaf can't quite manage to do it. It's selling up as much as they can to get those last few rolls in, because they want to keep their win streak going desperately. It's the only thing that's keeping them economically afloat.
It is, and at the moment, brubbba is actually looking pretty great with this I'm not going to call it a unique composition, of course, but certainly in terms of what we've seen over the last couple of days, it feels like it is. They're just that one Olaf away from getting 3-star, which will give them such a big power spike. They've now got to go up against this this strong dragon composition, which we've already seen taking out multiple opposition. Zoe doing good work from the back line, able to get multi-knockups through from those Tempests. The Zephyr earlier on with the knockup as well. All the whirlwinds coming out of the magical girl, but she gets sniped by a Deja bullet just before, however, Diana continues to do the work. Brubbba continues their reign of dominance. Slicks goes out.
Oh boy, it's been a brutal start to the day, but that is what we expect it to be. It's all about hitting the top 3 and really top 2 in each of these games to be able to contest for one of our 3 spots. Brubbba looking real good. I particularly love this composition which they've got going on with the Scale Scorn and the Cavaliers, just because I like to know the sort of angle it takes onto what you'd normally see with the Assassin Olaf coming in. Instead of going, straight to the backlines, we've got the ability to charge right through and, just get kill after kill after kill. I don't know if there's anything that can stand in this way, because Brubbba, once they get the 3-star Olaf in, that becomes an almost unstoppable force.
Players on 20-something health apiece. fiskskagg currently up at the top of the leaderboard. How are things going for them?
Let's go take a look.
Well, they are going to be going up against the Ghost on this one, so they're going to have to fight off against a Dragon Alliance. They've got that 2-star Soraka, so the heals have been coming through. Locket Rageblade off the Thieves, but not exactly an optimal build, but they're going to get a little bit of health back. Now, can they keep hold of that health, or they try to fight off the multiple dragons? This is Deja damage at its finest, raining down from above. Aurelian, sorry, not Aurelian, but Ao Shin spits the lightning that rinses through fiskskagg's health. They go down to 7.
Yeah, I think Fisk may be done here. They've got a little bit of money, so they are going to spend out to get to level 9, but they've got no money then to roll with. At least I suppose we can be throwing in another Mystic, and that Mystic will actually turn out to be Bard. So I might have to eat my words there. That is going to be a significant increase in power.
Optimal increase, but I don't think it's optimal in comparison to what we're seeing coming out of Brubba's Cavaliers or out of the Dragon Alliance, especially with the Mirage being duelist this time round. It's just provided so much extra power without having to itemize towards things like Rageblade for the Deja.
Well, let's see if the Ghost version of Brubba's comp is big enough to put Fisk out of the game. Zoe providing so much utility onto the backline. We got to go with our Scale Scorn Cavalier friends. Once one of these front lines drops from Fisk, then it's all going to be over as the Cavaliers will charge again and again in. The Ascension kicking in on both sides of the board, but Fisk is actually able to hold on, at least against the Ghost version of Brubbba, who actually loses their round against Tiaan.
Real big turning point here. Brubbba unable to secure the victory either in ghost form or in reality. We can see that Fisk is going to be able to get themselves the justice here. Let's see what Brubba's going to be picking up, because it could be a difference between life and death. They're still waiting on that 3-star Olaf. It's just not happened for them.
No, that's got to really hurt. We've also got a somewhat awkward position here that we've got the itemization already in place for a lot of our units. I think it's going to be Yasuo who'll end up with the Hand of Justice to get himself a little bit better at sticking around and calling disruption, but for Brubbba, they've got to be tearing their hair out right now. Where is this last Olaf? Actually, let's go have a quick check. I want to see if anybody else is holding Olafs right now, because they maybe should be. No, they're not.
They absolutely are.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, let's see if this is going to be a turning point, or if it's too little too late for Brubbba. They probably would have been just as happy able to pick up the second, the 2-star Yone, and they've actually just been able to secure that as well. So their favors certainly have turned slightly now. Itemization wise, we're going to see the change over of items on to the Yasuo, just getting that little bit stronger.
All right, Brubbba in with a good chance. We have seen all of our Northern Legends players fighting tooth and nail out of the corner. They will never say die until the last whistle is called. fiskskagg will be their opponent here for Brubbba. Keep your eye out for what we're going to be seeing coming out of that 3-star Olaf. He'll be chewing through the comps slowly, trying to bust through Nomsy. He's proving remarkably resilient, but now the Cavalier charges are coming in full force. Olaf gets onto the back line. Now it's going to be Olaf versus the Dragon. The 2 carries of the Scale Scorn comp are triumphant, and Fisker is gone.
I'm calling it now. 3-star Olaf was the difference right there. It wasn't too little too late. It was a timely save for Brubbba, and now they fight it out for first place up against Tiaan.
All right, we can't side by side these guys. We do not have that technology, but we can at least flick backwards and forwards. So on one hand, in Tian's corner, we have all the dragons you can handle. On the other side, we've got people who don't like dragons in the slightest. It's two competing forces. I'm trying to think of things. It's mustard and mayonnaise. It's water and fire. I don't know. It's going to be a big old brawl.
Toothless up against King George. Let's see who takes the win. Dashing in, Diana able to rinse through the bard. One Tempered Fate is delivered. Buys a little bit of time for the Deja to start stacking up that buff. Now we're going to see the damage coming out of the Olaf. He's managed to take down not one but 2 units. Does get knocked up by the last breath coming out of Yasuo, but then pops them with one final shot. Now they turn their attention towards Deja, and they are going to have the damage to turn this game on its head. It's going to come down to one final duel between the two.
Oh my gosh. Olaf standing triumphant amongst the field of battle. Tian, we've got to see what they're going to try for here, because so for our concerns coming in, we've got, of course, the Zephyr and where Olaf ends up going from brubba's side of things, because him getting stuck is a big problem. He needs to be getting kill after kill. On Tian's side, they know, having just lost the previous round, they are going to have to change things up. The doubles are all on the front line should provide them a lot of time, but the Shroud of Stillness needs to land well if Tian's going to turn this one around.
Well, what I wanted to see was a positioning change. That is what's happened. Bard is off on the side, still going to get charged down by a couple, but is going to be able to get one Tempered Fate off. The Assassins charge into the front line, get locked down by that Tempest coming through. Deja is going untouched for now. Is able to rinse through a couple of key targets, doing the good damage to the 3-star Diana, who just hasn't got the damage to get through the front line just yet. Deja now will yet again 1v1 against the Olaf. We know how this goes. 3-star Brolaf takes the win.
Oh my gosh, what a game to start us off with today. This is our second and final day of competition, of course. So,